Britain finally, hopefully, being released from its nightmare, frozen about Brexit and all that stuff. But let's first do culture wars. Now, you can judge people by their friends. And the problem is that is a problem right now for the Morrison government, because it today announced it was giving an extra $1 billion to the Clean Energy Finance Corporation to invest in projects so our electricity doesn't run out or get even more crazily expensive. But here's the thing. The Prime Minister, who famously waved around a lump of coal in Parliament 2 years ago, I don't know, is he becoming coal-phobic? Because not $1 of this $1 billion is going to go on giving us a new coal-fired power station. It's all going on generation, storage and transmission projects, try saying that, like pumped hydro, batteries, gas. And that's why Malcolm Turnbull, the Liberals sacked 2 years ago, or sacked for being too green, he tweeted, "Good call by Scott Morrison," and in passing whacked Tony Abbott, why not, for having tried to abolish this same Clean Energy Finance Corporation when Abbott was Prime Minister. Even Labor praised Morrison.
This is a government that tried to abolish the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. That's finally come around to the realisation that not only is this good in promoting clean energy, it actually produces an economic return.
Now, joining me, as always, on a Wednesday is Rowan Dean, author, editor of The Spectator Australia, gentleman, scholar, presenter of Outsiders on Sunday mornings, rating his socks off as he doesn't hesitate to let people know. Rowan, it's wonderful to see you again, mate. Listen, I don't know.
Thanks,
here's Scott Morrison with essentially a kind of global warming electricity type project. Praise from Labor, praise from Turnbull. What does this tell you?
Well, it tells you that all the people who will never vote for Scott Morrison are applauding his decision today. This is the worst decision the Morrison government has made, that Scott Morrison has made since his miracle win 6 months ago. It's a disastrous decision. It is going to have all sorts of the wrong ramifications. And what, unfortunately, all the people who put Morrison into power are the people who are going to be absolutely furious about this decision. Scott Morrison has not only nailed his colours to the mast, Andrew, he's superglued his colours to the mast, and it's a very dark and ugly green that he is now displaying. And as you said, I long applauded, you did, many people really applauded the Scott Morrison that had the cojones to wander into Parliament with a lump of coal and terrorise his opponents. That was a great moment, and in fact, that is the Scott Morrison I thought we were going to get, but I was hoodwinked. I've been conned. This Scott Morrison is not the Scott Morrison I would ever vote for, because what he's done, Andrew, he's basically, on the very day we have seen protesters yet again rampaging through the streets of Melbourne. We've had it in Sydney. They've been in Brisbane for months on end. Scott Morrison has come out and said, I may not agree with your tactics, but I agree with your philosophy. I agree with your thinking. I agree that coal is the enemy and that we have to transition to new renewables and get rid of coal in order to prevent the planet from some cataclysmic event. That is what he has signed up to today by putting $1 billion of your and my and every taxpayer's money, $1 billion. Just think of the effort that hard-working Australians put into generating that $1 billion. Think of the work, the hours, the sweat, the tears that have gone into generating that $1 billion worth of taxes, which any of us would gladly have said, you know what, just give it to the people affected by the drought. Just give it to them, do whatever needs to be done to help those people, businesses, farmers, etc., affected by the drought. But no, he's given it to a bunch of charlatans. The Clean Energy Corporation are charlatans, Andrew. They're a Turnbull-type outfit designed to pump your money into renewable energy, which has only one effect. it drives up your prices. So Mrs. Kafup's sitting there at home, shivering through the winter. You just had Adam talking about the fact that we know the cold kills more people. What Scott Morrison has done is given $1 billion to people who are going to fritter it away on wind turbines and solar panels and God knows what, which only has one guaranteed outcome. Your electricity prices will go up, and the government has to put money into every time they build a wind power farm or a solar farm. These things have to be connected to the grid. So the investors who have paid for this go, oh, no, let the taxpayer do that. Andrew, this is an absolute disgrace, and we've seen now in the last week, we've seen Scott Morrison apparently ban Craig Kelly from going on Q&A. Craig Kelly is one of the smartest and bravest people in the coalition, certainly knows his stuff on renewables. He's had a shouting match, which we gather involved various colourful language with Matt Canavan.
This news puts the shouting match in context, because obviously Matt Canavan is one of a number of Queensland MPs who are red hot for having a new coal-fired power generator in Queensland, one that's, by the way, one project is one that's driven by an Aboriginal corporation, so who could be against, you know? And he had a shouting match with the Prime Minister. Clearly, he saw that the money wasn't going to this particular project. Now, look, I remain to be, you know, maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised, and in a few months' time or whatever, there will be an announcement for it. But I will be surprised, I'll tell you that much. But who knows? You know, whatever.
Well,
Rowan,
let's not forget as well, the Snowy 2.0 is in this mix. The nonsense of pushing water uphill, which any school kid can tell you is just a fraudulent concept. That's in there as well. Scott Morrison has done a really, really bad thing today. He's aligned himself with the old Turnbull, and he's got you know, as I said, disastrous for the people who voted for him in. Well,
Turnbull will now be thinking, hey, why did you get rid of me? This is what I was going to do.